work as a homemaker? That is something that I hear quite often. Is it even allowed? Can you do that? And is it even biblical to work as a homemaker? And how do you do all that? Hey, and welcome to today's video. For those that don't know me yet, my name is Stephanie. I'm a mom to 3 kids and I'm a true homebody. I love everything about the home. So I love homemaking, homeschooling, being at home, but I also love working from home. And that is something that I have learned to love, and I really wanted to share more about what my view is on working as a homemaker and how you can actually plan that into your day. So let's talk about that today. But before we dive into all the good stuff, I wanted to share a little bit more of my story because I think that is an important part of why I came to the point where I am now. So way back when we first got married, I was actually still studying. And when we got married, I technically became a homemaker. I left my parents' home and I moved in with my husband, obviously. And I became a homemaker, and I basically just did what I did before that. I kept studying and I kept working, and we did our homemaking 50-50-ish. I did my household tasks when I got home or when I was done with school, and my husband did a lot of things when he was done with working. So we basically did everything 50-50. Then a few years later, when we had our son, about a year after that, I lost my job and I started to do something different. So I went from working quite a few hours. I actually went to working less hours. So I never really worked full time because I was constantly studying and working at the same time. And then at some point, I lost my job, so it never really got to that point. But I went from 4 full days of work to 3-ish days, and not even full days of work. So I did go down quite a bit in my hours, but I was still working and it was working well. But I always knew that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but I never really thought it was possible. Living on one income is tough in any country, I think, and also in our country. So I never really thought it was gonna happen. But then when we had our second born, I was without a job. I lost the other job as well. And there was just no work for me anymore. And because I was heavily pregnant, I was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 months pregnant. And I started to apply for jobs. But obviously I came in with this huge belly. Nobody wanted me. So I was basically at home from that point on. And I thought, you know what? I'm at home anyways. Let's just start a job from home. So I started blogging, quit that pretty quickly because it is really hard work to build a blog. So I kind of quit that at that point, and I thought, you know what, let's just do something different. And at the same time, I came in contact with someone who did network marketing. And well, long story short, I did that network marketing business for about 3.5 years. And if you want to hear the full story or more of the story, I will put a video up here in the iCards and in the description below about how that all went down. But it basically didn't go that well. I lost all my focus and I focused mainly on my job and not on my homemaking. So I decided to quit that job. And I actually left that business, I think it was 1.5 years ago. And then I started my current business, which is again a blog. I have my own blog and I have this YouTube channel, and I'm doing a bunch of content creation and digital product sales and such. So that is what I'm working on right now. But that basically means that from the moment I became a homemaker up until now, I've actually always had a job. I've always done homemaking and working at the same time. And I really don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I did want to point out a few things that I think are important if you are working and are a homemaker, because I do see a lot of value in being just a homemaker. Because if you can be a homemaker and if you can be a full-time homemaker and you don't have to work outside of the house, I think that is something that you should fully embrace and go for it. And you don't have to work outside of the house. It's not something that as a homemaker you should be doing. But I do know there's a lot of people who actually have to, because it is just hard to live on one income. We have managed to make it work for a while because I just didn't bring in any money, but it is just really hard, let's be honest. So it is really important to talk about it because I do know there's a lot of homemakers that actually have to work. So when I was working, I always felt this guilt inside of me, because I kind of thought that if you want to be a good homemaker and if you want to be a good mother, you should be home. You can't work. What I'm doing is wrong, and I just should be with my children all day, every day. And even though I still am with them all day, every day, I still think that there's nothing wrong with working. And I learned that when I started to look at Proverbs 31, because that woman, she is amazing. There's so much we can learn from Proverbs 31. And not only when it comes to homemaking tasks, because yes, she provides for her family and she does a lot of beautiful things that we can learn from. But there's 2 verses in there that I wanted to mention specifically that actually talk about her being a working woman, that she actually does something that brings in money. So I wanted to read those verses to you. Now, the first one is Proverbs 31, verse 16, and I wanted to read that to you. It says, "She considers a field and buys it, and from her profits she plants a vineyard." So she buys a field, but she also makes a profit. But when you buy something, you usually don't really make a profit, right? So what probably happened, or the thing that I think about that happened, she bought a field, she planted something, I don't know what she did, but she made a profit from her crops, or, well, she rented it out, whatever she did, she actually made a profit from that land. So she had to do something in order to make a profit. And from that profit, she planted a vineyard. So she actually worked, because if you want to make a profit, you need to have a job. And then another verse is Proverbs 31, verse 24, where it says, "She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies sashes for the merchants." So she makes something, she is good at making things with her hands, and she sells it. So she has a little side hustle where she makes clothing, and in this case, it was linen garments. And she also made sashes for the merchants. So she just did a lot of mending and sewing, I think, and she sells it. So she makes a profit from what she sells. So this woman actually did have some sort of business, and she did make money. Now, one thing that I often hear is, well, that is just something that she did, and she did it from home. So when you're a mom or when you're a homemaker, you cannot really go outside of the house. Well, I have to disagree with that. In that time, it was just not normal to go outside of the house. Women didn't go out of the house to work, but she did have something that she was doing in order to make money. And I think when we just put that verse and put it into our day and age, that actually means that we can do things from home. So yes, you can still make clothing from home, but right now in these days, it is a lot harder to, for example, bake bread and just sell it to your neighbors, because your neighbors are probably never home. Well, when I look at my neighbors, that is, none of my neighbors are ever at home. They work full-time and they go to a big grocery store, buy all their stuff at once, come back home, and then go to bed. So having a side hustle from home and just baking bread and selling it to your neighbors, or making linen garments, or whatever it is that you can do from home, that can be really hard in this time, because like I said, you don't really see a lot of people. So you still have to go outside of the house to actually sell it. So you have to go to a market, or you have to sell it to a store, whatever it is, but you still have to go outside of the house. And oftentimes it means that you have to go there and you have to sell your own stuff. So that is one thing that I think, when you put it into our context, right now in our day and age, it is just normal to go outside of the house and have a job. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So if you're a working mom, please don't feel guilty ever, because if that is something that you have to do in order to be able to supply for your family, then you have to do it. That is one of your roles. You have to, with your husband, or if you're a single mom, you have to supply for your family. So there's nothing wrong with working outside of the house. The thing that makes it more of a problem is when women start to really pursue a career and are fully focused on their career and kind of neglect their family and neglect their home. And that is, I think, one of the biggest problems. So when we talk about women that are working and that are homemakers, I think there's a big distinction between women that are actually being a homemaker and working and doing a great job at both of them, or women that are being homemakers, but they're actually not really doing that much. they don't care about being a homemaker, they just want to make money and they just want to have a career. I think there's a big distinction between those two. So when I talk about being a homemaker and being a working mother, I'm actually focusing on the first, because I do think that you can be a great homemaker, but you can also work from home, or you can work outside of the home if that is what you need to do. But you can actually do both of them really well. But the thing is, where is your focus? What is your priority in life? And if your priority is your family, and that means you have to work in order to provide for your family, that is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as your family is your number one priority, your children, your husband, as long as you really focus on that part of your life, and the working part is just something that you have to do in order to provide for your family, then by all means go for it, because I do think that it can be really tough on one income. So if you need it, then please go for it. But what I do see is when you go to the other side and women actually start to neglect their family and start to neglect their homemaking, that is when it becomes a problem. And I think that is where a lot of people put their focus when they say, oh, you can't work as a homemaker. Well, yes, you can, but it doesn't always have to be that when you work, that you are that career woman and that you want to work, I don't know, more than full-time hours because you just want to work and you want to have a lot of money. That has everything to do with priorities and not as much with the work itself. It has everything to do with your mindset and what is your priority in life. Is it your family? Or is it your job and making money and having all the things that you want to have? So can you work as a homemaker? Absolutely you can. And I really think that I talked about this in a previous video, which is, do you have too much time on your hands? Which I'll link in the cards above as well and below. But that is something that really struck out to me when Catherine from Now That We're a Family, she actually mentioned this, and I thought this is so good actually. She said that we have too much time on our hands because there's not a lot that we need to do as women these days. And a lot of times what we do is we just start scrolling Instagram, or we go and watch Netflix and we don't really do anything. Well, if that is the case, if you're a homemaker that is starting to become a little lazy, then why not start a side hustle? Why not start something from home and actually make money from home? Why not start a blog? Even though that is hard, you can still do it. Why not start a blog, start a YouTube channel, start selling digital products? Well, there's hundreds and hundreds of videos about how you can start a side hustle as a stay-at-home mom. But if you feel like you are wasting a lot of time at home, then definitely go and work from home. Why not? That is what I'm doing. I am a busy mom, but I absolutely love that. I homeschool our children, I work, and I am a homemaker, and I really like having that variety. I am having my homeschool moment, then the children go upstairs and I can do something for myself, so I can film a video, or I can talk, or I can create something, and it is something that I really like to do, and I can use my brain for it a little more. And then in the afternoon, I can just do my homemaking tasks, and I can clean, and I can cook, and I can do all the things that I love as well. So I actually have the perfect job when I think of it, because I love teaching. That is what I studied. I studied to become a teacher, so I love homeschooling. I love doing something for myself and actually teaching, which is what I'm kind of doing right now, right? And do something for myself and have a job and use my creativity. And I love making the home into a beautiful place for my family. So I'm actually doing all the things, which is awesome. But that was just a side note. But yeah, what I wanted to say is it really is about priorities. If you are a homemaker and you have some time left, then start your side hustle. If you're a working mom and you do it because you want to provide for your family, and even if you have to work full time because you otherwise couldn't feed your children, then that is your priority, is still with your family. It is not that you want to make as much money because you want to have the newest cars and the newest iPhones and whatever it is. Then your focus is still on your family. And even though I really strongly believe that a woman could be at home a lot and that it is a great spot for a woman to be, if you are not at that place in your life right now, there's nothing wrong with it. And you can actually work outside of the house and still have your priority at home. And if that is your season right now, please don't feel guilty. There's nothing wrong with working. But I've said that a couple of times now. So anyway, I really wanted to make a video about this, because I often feel like people think, okay, working as a homemaker is definitely not biblical, because if you want to be a homemaker, how can you work? Well, You can, as long as you have your priorities straight. Anyway, I really hope that this video was inspiring to you and that you don't feel guilty for working as a mother, because that is something that I really want to put on your heart. You don't have to feel guilty. And I really hope that this video encouraged you to get rid of that guilt. And I hope to see you in my next video.